Welcome back. Welcome back to the Gardening with Joe and Holly radio show. Happy to have you along. If you have plants, then you need to water them correctly. You probably are not watering them correctly, and tree diaper can be the answer to that problem.
If your plants could talk to you, they would have a few complaints about not being properly watered, either too much or too little. How do you water properly? Take the guesswork out by using the tree diaper. Tree diaper is a revolutionary watering system that stabilizes soil moisture by taking up excess water and slowly releases it to plants when needed. The tree diaper is filled with water from rain or when you water and slowly releases water over 3 weeks. No pipes, hoses, or electricity needed. Whether you're a first-time gardener or advanced, Tree Diaper will improve the way you water your plants. Made in the USA, check out all the sizes they have available. Tree Diaper will keep your plants happy. That's treediaper.com. That's treediaper.com. Tree Diaper will keep your plants happy.
Keep them happy, keep them watered so they keep producing and just are healthier. So there's many different types of gardening methods, and we're familiar with, if you said, name me off a couple of very familiar gardening methods, you would say?
I would say raised beds, in the ground, container.
Top three right there.
Three, yeah. Okay.
So, but there's many, many others, and some other, I'm sure there's people that's yelling at the radio right now going, those weren't the three I guessed, and that's fine.
You can call us and tell us.
Yeah, call us and let us know. 1-800-927-SHOW. And we're going to go over several of them here, some that we've used and use, and others that we have not used, but feel that would be really neat and beneficial if we had the means and capabilities of doing such. So, straw bale garden. You heard the Bale Buster ad there in that break. To condition the bale, you have to condition the bale in order to get the internal portions to break down into that humus in order for the plants to feed off of that. We've done this with 1 bale. We've done this with 9 bales. It works no matter, as long as you follow the recipe that Joe Karsten, the author of the Straw Bale Garden book, describes and instructs you in.
Yeah,
it works great.
That's the key is you'll find a bunch of, clickbait haters who are like, this didn't work, but they didn't do anything. They just put their plants in a bale.
And you clicked on the site, and they get 10 cents for every click they get from whomever and however they work.
Probably not 10 cents, but whatever. Yeah. So no, you need to do your conditioning, and it works beautifully.
Yeah. Vertical gardening. Now, this is a means that many urban gardeners that you utilize, you people that live out in the country that have acreages of garden. This is, let them sprawl out the pumpkins, the eggplant, or the cucumbers, all that stuff. We city people, I grew up on a farm, and the only thing we ever trellised was peas. We have to utilize the space, and by going vertical, we can do that with cucumbers and some melons, pole beans, a gamut of peas, everything.
Even your tomatoes, it's not necessarily vertical gardening, but those vine tomatoes, they benefit greatly from being put up.
Right, and many of us have that problem with the cages falling over, and EasyStepProducts.com has the answer on that one, a sturdy tomato cage for you. Another one is hydroponics. Now, this can be done primarily indoors. I mean, I'm sure there's some applications during the summer months that are exercised outdoors, but hydroponics is the process of using water, putting nutrients in the water and passing that through the root system, whether that be in clay pellets or clay balls or other means, PVC pipe, and then the plants grow in that means. Also, there is the
aquaponics.
We'll get to that, but the cracking method, the passive hydroponics, where you don't have any water. It's no moving water. It's stagnant water with nutrients in it in order for your plants to grow. Mm-hmm. We do practice the hydroponic system in a I don't know what you want to call it. It's a square bucket with it.
I think it's a
Dutch bucket system. Yeah. We do practice that method. And it works really well. We put it by a window. We grow lettuce in it. We grow some herbs in it. You can do it year round.
Right. So then we have the back to Eden method, which is the wood chips, and people are like, don't wood chips suck nitrogen out of your soil? But this is the wood chips break down, and it kind of amends the soil over time, and then it is a nutrient-rich soil.
It's one of these things where you let it set for a number of years before you try to utilize that area in a growing condition. So, well, that pros and cons on that. It works great if you give the time allowed for it to do its thing. Another one is what you brought up earlier was aquaponics, which is the practice of the same as hydroponics, but instead of adding nutrients, and you might add some nutrients, but very minimal. We've never practiced this particular method of growing, but you have a fish reservoir tank where the fish live, and that water and their waste product gets pumped through the root system of the plants in which you're growing, and that's how they live. And you got to make sure the pH levels are right for the fish and then for the plants, and it's a kind of a sciencey thing, but it's very beneficial. And some people, you get two bangs for the buck there. You get the plants in which you're growing, and then some people will eat the fish after they get to a certain size too, so you can utilize.
A lot of people do that if they can.
Right.
Yeah.
So another one is square foot gardening. Now, Holly, can you explain what that particular method is and why many new gardeners we would recommend utilizing this type of system?
Sure. So square foot gardening is where you're growing a crop per square foot. Essentially, you don't have to grow just one crop per square foot. You can grow like 3 square feet of crops, but it grids out your garden for you, and this works really well. It yields more per square foot than planting in rows, so you get more bang for your buck, basically. So something like an example of planting in a square foot, 1 square foot would be 1 tomato, 1 square foot would be 9 beets, 1 square foot is 16 radishes, and you can kind of plot your garden out that way. The other good thing is that something like radishes that grow quite rapidly in the spring, you can then replace with a tomato once they're growing, so you can easily swap out a square foot for one thing.
And it works really well. And the other thing is, let's say you put 9 bean plants in that 1 square foot. If you have a crop failure, you've just lost 1 square foot, and you may, if you have a 16 square foot 4x4 area, you could do, beans on the corner and radishes, you could grid it out different ways. So you can have 2 different squares with the same thing, or succession plants. So you have a crop that's ready now, and then a crop that's ready in a week and a half, and so on and so forth, based on the time of year on your cool weather or warm weather crops. So works very well. There's many different charts online. Obviously, if you have 4 tomato plants in 4 square feet, things are going to get very tight there, but it does work. It does work very well.
It's definitely very doable. It's just something to keep in mind that. And you can also, if you don't do containers, or if you don't do raised beds or in the ground, you can kind of put this into a container garden. If you use like something that's the size of a 5-gallon bucket, that's about 1 square foot of surface. So you can transfer that thought pattern to that.
Now the next one on the list is an underground greenhouse. Now, it's not necessarily underground. The majority of it's underground, but it has a roof on top of it, and that is called
a wallapini.
This is a really cool method that I think you could basically grow year-round, because if you're in a basement, it stays a certain temperature year-round, very, very close to the same temperature. So what this practice is, you dig a hole, a square, and you go a certain footage deep, and like 8 or 10 feet deep. You save the top soil that you dug off, and you bring that back down to the base of it once you've got the bottom created 10 feet deep, and then you grow in that. This is used in many parts of the world as a everyday growing technique, and it's it would serve probably beneficial purposes in the northern portions of the United States, where a couple of weeks ago, many of us were at sub-zero ambient temperature, and if you're 10 feet down and you're trying to grow your cool weather crops, I think it would work very, very well.
Right, and if you cover that with a tunnel type thing,
or even just like a framework,
or what have you, and then on those colder days, you could add another layer of plastic. That's going to give you more heat. So
that's a pretty neat thing. And finally, you got the greenhouse. Some people grow only in greenhouses or in high tunnels or cold frames, that type of thing. I know it's pretty popular in the UK in the allotments. A lot of them will grow year-round in those tunnels or high tunnels. and it works very, very well for them. And you got a little more control because you don't have to worry about one, animals, the deers, the raccoons, whatever, coming in and taking out the stuff. But two, you can kind of control bad insects. The only problem with that is if you've got 27 tomatoes in your high tunnel and you have a infestation of something, it's going to take over very, very rapidly. And unless you're on top of it, you're not going to be able to control it very easily.
Right. I just want to talk about really quickly that these are some alternative methods. There's nothing wrong with growing in the ground, raised bed, containers, what have you. And then also, you don't have to just use one method.
No.
You can do all of these if you wanted to. Realistically, I mean, if you rent an apartment, your landlord might not appreciate you digging down
underground
Wallapini.
Yeah.
But
I would do it and then ask for permission, ask for forgiveness later. Yeah.
Well, I guess since you went through all that work, check your lease.
Yeah.
But but yeah, you can definitely interchange these and think about what works for you.
Right.
And you can also try something, or maybe perhaps go online if you're thinking about investing in a greenhouse or building a greenhouse. And definitely, if you are going to do something like a greenhouse that might become an almost permanent structure, make sure that's something you can do in your city or municipality.
Right. I mean, we do raised beds, we do ground, we do containers, we do straw bales, we do hydroponics, and we do square foot gardening. We do
like window
gardening. Yeah. So it's just like anything else. Why do you grow 6 or 7 or 8 or dozens of different varieties of tomatoes? One, for the variety and the versatility, but also secondly, so if you do have a crop failure on one specific variety or type, it doesn't wipe out everything. You have backups to that. And that's why, on the farm growing up, we would always get 5 or 6 different types of seed corn and soybeans. So if one had a crop failure or didn't yield as good as the other ones, it wasn't a doomsday. We had backup to backup. We had corn, we had soybeans, we had wheat, we had hogs, we had cattle. So if something failed or 2 things failed, we still was able to manage and survive. Well, Holly, some temperatures are warming up and soon it will be summer.
That's right. And you do not want to share your yard with beetles and grubs.
I don't.
Right. So it's time to start thinking about that. There's all sorts of Japanese beetles articles. Grubs are gross little bugs anyway. And there's lots of different information. So Grub Gone can be applied to the turf or garden around ornamentals to control grubs and lessen the impact that beetles have on your yard this summer. Easy to use, you apply with a commercial spreader and irrigate it into the soil. Biologically, it specifically targets grub and beetle invaders without harming beneficial bugs like bees, ladybugs, and butterflies. And it's the only non-chemical that works. You can find out more at phyllumbioproducts.com. That's PHYLLOM bioproducts.com. phyllumbioproducts.com.
Hey there, gardeners. Thanks for checking out this segment of the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show. If you like what you've seen, you can search through the channel and find full in-studio videos of the entire show. If you want to go another route, you can search for it on your favorite podcast platform by searching the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener radio show or the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show, and you can download it and take it with you. You can check out all past seasons at our website, thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com, under the radio tabs at the top of the page. We thank you for joining us. We hope you've learned and enjoyed the show, the segment, and we'll see you next time.